guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Samantha and I am a home child care provider in the great state of Texas. And I am here to do a daycare Q&A. I opened up questions last 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago, something like that. I was supposed to film this last weekend. I did not have time. I had 2 new daycare kids start this week, which was very exciting. And I finished my daycare director's credentials. So I was very busy, working on all that, turning in my assignments and all that sort of stuff. So I'm here to do this today, and this is going to go up either probably tomorrow, which is Monday, and then on Wednesday I'm going to post my new daycare tour, so look out for that. And then on Friday I'm going to post the second half of this video. So I opened up my Instagram and my email and YouTube and all that, and I just asked for daycare questions. Now I get tons and tons and tons of emails with questions on how to start daycare, on certain topics for daycare, and I try to answer them as much as I can. However, replying to every single email can get a little daunting, especially because I have daycare emails like for my business from parents and potential parents. I also am on the food program again, so I'm having to do that paper. I just have a lot going on, so it's very hard for me to respond in a timely manner. I'm trying to set aside every single Friday or Saturday night, like late at night, to reply to all my emails. So if you email me on Sunday and I don't get back to you till Saturday, I apologize. I'm trying my best. So I am, like I said, I'm here to do a daycare Q&A. I got tons and tons of questions, so I'm actually going to split this probably into 2 videos. One will go up tomorrow, one will go up Friday, as I mentioned. So I'm just going to go through. I wanted to pre-answer some of these, but I also wanted to give a quick answer and a kind of like off the top of my head answer. So I have all your questions here. I have 3 pages of questions right now. So if your question is not in this video, check out the next video on Friday. I'm trying to go through all of them and make sure I get to everyone. If I missed something, just let me know down in the comments, or you can email me. And so yeah, so we're just gonna get right into this. My first set of questions, there was actually 4 questions from this person. Her name is Carlita Miller, and she asked me on YouTube on in my comments. She said, how did you decide on an evacuation site? I know a neighbor's home is ideal, but I don't know any of my neighbors. So I'm not close to my neighbors either. Like, we kind of wave at each other, as we're leaving to go somewhere if we see each other, but we are not, I'm not friends with my neighbors. We don't have barbecues. We don't hang out, nothing like that. But one of my neighbors is my evacuation site, simply because it is the closest and most reasonable place to transport children. So even if you are not friendly with your neighbors, I would encourage you to just, let them know what you're doing, and let them know, look, I just need somewhere close. The likelihood that I'm gonna have to use your location is pretty slim. But if I do, if the need arises, would you be willing to allow me to use your home as an evacuation site, or your yard, or whatever it may be? Most people are pretty open to that, especially when they hear you're working with children. They're pretty open. If you cannot, like, if you are just not willing to ask them, which you need to be willing to ask them. If you're not willing to ask them, look around, see if there's a local school. I have 2 different schools 2 streets away. So I could always go there for a further evacuation site. I also have a lot of businesses that are close, so maybe check out local businesses. But really, like, your neighbor is the closest person, and that's really probably going to be the most reasonable in an evacuation situation. Now, if you can transport children, and you want to get in your car and go, then I would check out a local school, the local library, somewhere public that's also child friendly. And that's what I would use for an evacuation site. So You can also look, like if you're looking in your neighborhood, I always try to look for people who are stay-at-home parents, stay-at-home moms, or work-at-home moms or dads. Those are the people who are going to be readily available. So you may use your neighbors as an evacuation site, but something may happen during the day and you can't access their home. And you know, a lot of people aren't going to give you a spare key to their house. So I would try to look for people who are home during the day, and who, you know, you would be okay with having the children around whenever you do have to evacuate. So that is my long-winded answer for that one. Her second question was, how did you come up with your rates? And it's all about market research, guys. You need to check around your area for all sorts of care. You need to call the centers, you need to call other home child care providers, you need to go online. I know a lot of states have their have like the average rate for your area. You can go on to different moms groups on Facebook. There's one preschool that just opened, or it's a daycare, they take infants as well, that just opened down the street from us. And they are very secretive with their pricing. So calling, I could not get a price. I would have to go and tour. And so I actually ended up going on my mom's group, and somebody had already asked the question. So I just searched the school's name and rates, and it came up and it showed me what their rates were. So I kind of had a general idea. But you really want to call around, look on Craigslist, see what people are advertising. A lot of, you know, unlicensed providers, or at least in my area, you're supposed to be licensed if you take 3 or more children, unrelated children. They will list their prices on their ad. So I will look at that. I'll call around. There's not really a whole lot of home daycare providers in my city. I am one of 3 licensed childcare providers in my city. So, you know, I don't have a whole lot of competition. Now, there are many that are opening. There are many that are unlicensed. So you just want to call around and see what other people are charging. And then you want to also see what they're offering. So like I said, the preschool down the street is, I did get their rate, and they are about 3 times as much as my rate weekly, which I thought was astronomical. However, when I went on their website and I looked at the things that they offer versus what I offer, you know, their rates really met what they offered. So they have like private classes, they do yoga, they do swim lessons, they do all sorts of really fun stuff there that I'm not able to do as just a single home childcare provider. So, you know, for parents who are wanting those things, they are willing to pay that price. So when you are doing your market research, do not just call and get the rate. You really want to see what that person's offering. Are they offering food? Are they on the food program? Are they offering special classes? Do they have a curriculum? Are they bilingual? Are they, you know, do they teach the children sign language? Do they do yoga? Do they have special guests come in? Do they do field trips? Do they, you know, when they serve food, is it all organic and homemade and homegrown sometimes? You really just want, I'm adjusting my blanket. I got a blanket here because I'm cold. You really just want to see what they offer versus what you offer and base your rates off of that. I get a lot of questions of like, what should I charge? And I don't know what you should charge. I would love to be able to say, this is the exact rate that you should charge, but your area is completely different from mine. What you offer is completely different from me. And I always tell people, when you go to set your rate, do your market research and set yourself a tiny bit higher than what immediately comes to your mind. So when I went to set my rate, a certain rate immediately came to my mind. And then I was like, it was kind of on the low end, and I know what I provide, the service that I provide is of good quality. And so I went slightly higher, and I'm very glad that I did. I've since raised my rates even, and I'm still one of the lowest in the area, or kind of average for my area. But I know, like, as I'm adding things to my program, as new kids come in, I can raise my rate a little bit because I have a good quality program. I have, you know, my credentials now. I have like all sorts of really cool stuff. So I'm able to raise my rate. But do your market research, figure out what you offer versus what other people offer. Sometimes you can even just make a piece of paper, write down all the schools, write out in different columns what they offer and what you offer, and just check them off and figure out, like, okay, this person is charging, you know, $275 a week, and they offer everything that I offer. They're completely full, and, you know, we have the same education level and all those things. Their space is similar to mine. That may be the rate that you want to go with. So that's just my opinion. If somebody is offering a lot more than you, then you may not want to go for that rate, because when parents look at it, they are going to see that the other place is offering, you know, maybe they provide food and you don't. That's an additional cost for the parents to provide food. So I'm kind of getting off topic here, but say that they provide lunches or they provide all their food for the day and you do not, and you're both listed at $275. As a parent, I would probably go with the school that is of similar quality to yours, but has built-in food to their rates. Because if I'm having to pack food, that's an additional cost at the grocery store for me, in addition to my child's tuition. So that's my answer. I hope that helps. And then she said, how did you prepare your children for having, or how did you prepare your own children for having additional children in your home? Fortunately for me, my older kids, that's my daughter, she's with my husband, I promise. Fortunately, all my kids have experienced daycare in one way or another. My oldest daughter went to daycare when I worked at a real estate agency, and then I was home, and I ended up opening a daycare in my home when I lived in New Jersey. And so my son experienced it from a very early age, and he didn't have any issues with it. Right now, I have a 2 and a 1-year-old. I mean, I have my older kids too, but they're at school. They know daycare. They're not worried about it. But my younger children had a little bit of a hard time adjusting. I was a working mom outside the home. And so my children went to daycare, and they were also home with my husband at times. So they had not experienced mommy being home and having to share mommy with other children. So it was a little bit of an adjustment. I just explained to them, you know, this is mommy's job and our friends are going to come over and play. Just giving them that extra attention. And, you know, when daycare is over, not shutting down. That is my biggest flaw. Is in my head, I'm like, I spend all day with my kids. Like, when daycare's over, I want a break. Like, I just want a break. And realizing that although they are with me all day, the quality time is not there a lot of times, because I am caring for everyone. I'm caring for everybody else's children. So you really want to make sure that after hours and on the weekends, you give them that quality time and you really pour into them. That way they know during daycare, okay, I've got my time. You know, it's not like they don't get any time with you. So that is something that I myself struggle with, and I'm, you know, it's a huge flaw of mine. And I'm really trying to just pour into my children more. You also, depending on your licensing standards, you don't want to just force them to be in daycare all the time, depending on your setup and everything. I am blessed to have a ranch style house, which is just one floor. And my daughter's bedroom is, you know, like, I have my daycare room, the hallway is right here. It's like a short little hallway, and her bedroom is right there. So if she wants to go to her bedroom during daycare hours, she can go to her bedroom during daycare hours. If she brings a toy out that is hers and she doesn't want to share it, I have her take it back to her room and she can play with that toy. I don't make her share her toy because we have daycare specific toys that all my daycare kids can play with. And so I don't make her share her own personal toys. She can keep those, or she can play with those in her room. But just giving them kind of that separate time. Sometimes she wants to go watch TV and I will allow her to go and just watch a show while I am doing daycare. This is my 2-year-old. And just giving extra cuddles and snuggles. And sometimes she won't take a nap, so she'll just hang out with me and we'll do something. Or, you know, there's just like different ways that you can make them feel special throughout the day without making the other kids feel bad that their mom isn't there, that their mom is out working. So that's how I prepare them, and that's how I continue to try and make sure that they understand that this is my job, but you know, I am still here for you and I'm still wanting to pour into you and spend time with you. So there you go. And then the last question is from Carlita. I hope I'm saying that right, Carlita. It said, how did you come up with your schedule and have you had to revise it often? So I based my schedule off of the preschool schedule that we used at my center that I worked at previous. I took, you know, that schedule worked really nicely. So I really took that and then I kind of built off of it for what I thought would work for this age group. And yes, I have had to revise it often. I have my daily schedule, and at the very bottom, the daily schedule that I give to the parents, at the very bottom it says, look, this is very flexible, very loose. We may not get to any of these things throughout the day. As far as like curriculum and things like that, we may not get to any of it. And I just let them know, you know, if they want to play in Amazon boxes for an hour and we don't get to find motor that day, then we don't get to find motor that day and we're going to play in Amazon boxes. That's just how I am. I'm very, you know, fluid with our schedule. I'm not concerned about hitting every single mark every single day. Sometimes we spend, you know, 2 hours outside in the morning. Sometimes we just free play all afternoon. Sometimes we do craft after craft after craft. Sometimes we get to everything and it's wonderful. Sometimes, you know, all of them nap. Sometimes none of them nap. Like I'm just very fluid in my schedule. So I write out, you know, this is the plan for the day. For every day, I kind of keep the same schedule, and the kids kind of fall into it and it works. But at the same time, if they are not feeling it, I don't push it. And we, you know, we're very play-based, whatever kind of they want to do, to an extent, we will do. If they want to free play, then we free play. If they want to do dance party, then we dance party. I mean, all those different things. So I would say come up with a standard schedule, and I can, you know, give you a sample schedule of what I do, and then build off of that, make notes. I had, like, during the first few weeks, I had my daily schedule printed out, and I would just make notes next to it in pencil, like, this is working, this is not working, maybe I should move this here. Oh, you know, I'm noticing, and this is like, you know, TMI, but I'm noticing that 4 of my kids are having bowel movements at like 9 o'clock and my diaper changes aren't until 9:30. So then if majority of my daycare is doing that, then I need to move my diaper changing to about 9:05 so I can get all their diapers changed. And it's not taking, like, if 9 o'clock is my circle time and everybody's pooping during circle time, I could probably move my circle time to 9:30 and change diapers at 9. So just do what works for you, do what works for your kids, make some notes the first few weeks and figure out kind of what's working for you, and then make a more solid schedule. Kids do thrive off of routine, so, you know, you do have to be a little bit firm in it, but also be flexible. Firm but flexible. I hope that helps. So thank you, Carlita. Those were your 4 questions. I'm going to move on to the next one. This is from Mommy Lissa's World, and it says, how much money do you need to invest to start a daycare? that is such an open-ended, that is a huge question. I cannot tell you how much you would need to invest. I can tell you how much I have invested, and how much on like the expenses that you need to think about. So number one, if you're going to get licensed, you need to think about your licensing fees, and you can go on your state's website. I'm sure that they have their fee listing. I know for my state, you have to pay for background checks. You have to pay for the application fee. I had to pay for CPR class, like all of those things have to be paid for. So go on your state's website, see what's required, write out those, and then you're going to move on to like your safety stuff. So all of your plugins, all of like your outlet covers, your fire extinguisher, your like all of their childproofing stuff. I would make a list for that and write out all of your childproofing stuff. And that I usually bought most of that from Amazon. Sometimes you can go to like a secondhand store and find those sort of things, baby gates and things like that. I was blessed enough to have a parent donate some really nice baby gates to me. So I didn't have to pay for that. So, you know, I mean, you want to make sure that you have those two things taken care of. Your smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detector, you know, those were $10 to $20 a piece. My fire extinguisher was about $20 something. First aid kit, that was another $20. So just between my licensing and my safety stuff, I probably spent close to $350 for just that. And then on top of that, you need supplies. So you need to sit down and figure out what you're going to provide versus what your parents are going to provide. I know some providers out there charge a supply fee, and that goes towards wipes and craft materials and all those sort of things. So that category is very, I mean, it really depends on what you are going to provide and what you're going to have your parents provide, as well as if you can find the, you know, toys and things like that secondhand. I took a lot of toys that my children were no longer playing with, some that they were still playing with, and I put those in daycare. And so that really helped me get started. And then I have probably spent another, I would say I've probably spent about $1,200 on materials, on craft materials and toys and things like that. And then as far as decor and furniture, I probably spent, you know what, I think $1,200 for all of that is probably about right. So I also had a lot of materials left over from my preschool class that I had purchased. So I, you know, was able to use that in my daycare. So I did have a lot of stuff, plus I have children, so I had a lot of stuff from them as well. So I, in total, probably spent a little under $2,000 to start my daycare. I do not have a backyard play set yet. That is probably going to be another $1,000 that I need to spend. I need it. They are tired of the one climber that I have outside. So that's on the list. That's what's next to purchase. And then I purchased, you know, I have a monthly budget on what I'm going to spend on cleaning supplies and craft materials and lesson plan stuff. And as far as toys and things go to yard sales, it's coming into spring. So this is the best time to go and find materials. I have a lot of teachers in my area, so the yard sales are usually pretty good. Go and buy secondhand toys, go and buy secondhand materials. You don't have to pay full price for everything. So that is how much I spent as far as I know, I think. And then I just add to it a little bit. If I see toys on clearance or whatever, I'll grab them. So yeah, I've spent a decent amount of money in my first year of daycare, or actually that's really just the startup. I've spent more than that since then. So, and then she said, how much do you charge in tuition fees? This is not something that I am going to give you guys the exact amount, just because I don't I don't know. I don't like talking about money that much. So I will tell you the average in my area is between $150 and $200 for a home child care provider, and that is for a licensed home child care provider as well as registered home child care providers. That tends to be the average there. Now the centers, there's, you know, I've called centers and there's one that's like $325, $350 for infant care. So the range is huge around here, but I will not give you the specific price, but I charge in the between $150 and $200 a week for childcare. I do not offer any sibling discounts. I don't offer any discounts. I know some providers will do like 10% or, you know, pay full price for one kid, you get half off tuition for the other. I don't do any of that. Not that it's wrong if that's what works for you. I just feel like they're still occupying a space in my daycare, whether they're siblings or not. They're still occupying 2 spots or 3 spots or however many siblings there are. So they should pay for those spots. So yeah, that is how I feel about that. And that is, and then she just asked, how do you figure out what it would be? And again, you just want to do your market research and figure out what you offer versus what other people offer and base your rates off of that. And if you set your rates too high, you're going to know, because you're not going to get a lot of calls. You're not going to get a lot of feedback. So, or a lot of people interested in enrolling. So you'll know after, you know, I would say a few months, whether your rates are too high or not. I'm going to move on. Thank you, Mommy Lissa's World, for that question. The next question is from Alicia Cerullo. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Forgive me. She said, let's get the questions started. What brought you to the decision to start your own daycare? I have run a daycare before, as I mentioned, so this was very natural to me. I've also worked in childcare settings, again, very natural to me. Originally, when I did my daycare years and years ago, I wanted to be home with my kids. It was not something that I needed to do. My husband at the time was the primary breadwinner, and so it was just something for me to do. I've always been kind of a creative person, and I really I wanted to be a teacher. I did not pursue that. No reason, I just didn't pursue it, but I've always really liked the creative side of teaching, and this was just an opportunity for me to be home with my kids while still making money, still being able to provide for my family, and also feel fulfilled and feel like I'm, you know, contributing. So that is why I decided to do daycare. I'm able to be home with my kids. I'm able to be home, period, so I can do things around my home, and I'm able to financially contribute to my household. So yes. And then she says, do you use the food program or do you choose not to? So I've kind of gone over this before, but I did say I am back on the food program. I originally got off, you know, originally it's like a tier 1, tier 2 thing. So tier 1, you get a higher reimbursement rate than you do in tier 2. Tier 2 for me was not worth it. And then when I reapplied, I qualified for tier 1. And just because my income was less and, you know, I just didn't have as much. So I qualified for tier 1. And so I get a higher reimbursement rate. And so I would say if you can qualify for tier 1, yes, it is worth it. To me, it's worth it. Even if you can qualify for tier 2, it's still extra money in your pocket. But you really have to kind of do your grocery budget and decide whether it's going to reimburse you enough to pay for the food that you're going to be feeding the children. So it is a lot of paperwork. You do have to open your home to inspections, and phone calls and, you know, all that from your licensing or from your food program lady, or gentleman. And there is a lot more to it. It does add a lot of work to you. I'm blessed to live in Texas, and we use something called Minute Menu. Well, it's called Kid Care now. It used to be called Minute Menu. So I can do all of my food claims online. I can just log all of it online, which is really, really wonderful. And it makes it much more time efficient for me. I'm not having to handwrite everything. But it still does take time, and it still is extra things that I need to do outside of, and it's something extra that I have to do outside of my daycare hours. So, you really have to decide whether the food program is good for you or not. I would definitely say look into it. If you're providing food and that money is coming out of your pocket, that is less tuition that you're getting. If your parents are providing food and it's working for you, don't bother. Like, just let them keep providing the food. But if it's something that you want to start providing meals, I would definitely look into the food program. I do think if you can get on tier 1, it is worth the reimbursement. But everybody's experience is different. Everybody's decision whether it's worth the restrictions that they put on you or not. I found that the food program really, like when I'm making my menu, it really, really helps me decide what I'm going to plan. A lot of times before I was on it, I was like, oh my gosh, when am I gonna feed these kids? Now I'm like, okay, I know that I have to have a grain, a meat, a vegetable, a fruit, and milk. And I know I have to have this, so it's much, much easier for me to plan my meal based off of those guidelines. And it also really ensures that they kind of have a well-rounded lunch or breakfast or whatever it is. So that's my opinion. Everybody's different. Do what works for you. She also asked, do you have an assist, or do you run daycare alone, or do you have help or an assistant? I was running daycare alone. Since being licensed, I did have to add an extra person. Right now it's my sister. And once you're out of ratio, you have to, you obviously need another caregiver, but I was running daycare alone. And it was fine. It is, I will tell you, it is very lonely doing it by yourself. It is very, I would say it is difficult doing it by yourself because you are lonely and you are just around kids all day. It's very hard to get that adult interaction. So yeah, it's very difficult when you do it by yourself, but I currently, have my sister, and we are doing it together as of right now. So I'm gonna move on. Thank you so much for your questions. So I'm gonna do a few more questions, and then I'm gonna split this into a second video. So these questions are from Ara's Life. They said, so many questions, haha, here are a few, as I am in the process of opening up my daycare. How long would you anticipate an interview to be? My interviews last anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. I am a quick talker, and I am very, very prepared for my interviews. So I take them through a quick tour, we sit down and we chat. I open it up for questions, and they're out the door. So I usually schedule about 30 to 45 minutes. I try to give them as much information as possible before they ask me any questions, because a lot of times what happens is if I open it up to questions, they're gonna kind of take over the interview, and it's probably gonna take you a lot longer. So go through all of your information, go through your handbook, like you run that interview and you decide what the cap is, like when they leave. I also suggest do not run interviews during daycare hours. That is my opinion. Some providers don't agree. They say that you should, when you have kids there so they can see the kids. I don't agree with that. I like to run my daycare interviews after hours or on the weekends when I can be more prepared. I can have my hair done, my makeup done, not look like a hot mess, and be able to fully devote my time to my potential clients. And I feel more confident in running my interview. So yeah, 30 to 45 minutes, I would say is average for me. So I would have, kind of a list of stuff that you want to go over and what you want to do. So I know when I bring an interview in, I introduce myself and I immediately go into my tour of my space. give them a little bit of information on my philosophy, my curriculum, things like that. And then we sit down and I run the interview. I tell them all about my program. I tell them all about myself. I go through my handbook and then I open it up to a few questions. Usually by the end of the interview, they're like, no, we don't have any questions. You went over everything. And I'll say, okay, it was lovely to meet you. And I will get back to you guys in a few days. If you have any questions between now and then, you can email me or call me at this number. So, that's my answer to that one. And then number 2, she said, what do you expect parents to bring for their child? So food, clothes, supplies, etc. So I provide food, including infant formula and baby food. And then I also provide baby wipes. I provide like pack and plays, toys, things like that. So my parents provide their diapers, their child's diapers. Extra clothes, I have them bring 2 to 3 full changes of clothes, right down to the socks. An extra jacket needs to be kept in their cubby. And then they provide like their loveys, things like that. They also provide pack and play sheets. That way I can just launder them and put them back on their child's pack and play or their nap mat. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I provide pretty much everything else. I find it easier when I provide things. I provide all the sippy cups, all the bottles, all that kind of stuff. Makes it way easier when I don't have a bunch of stuff going back and forth in the diaper bag. I do encourage parents to leave like a week's worth of diapers or a month's worth of diapers, whatever's easiest for them. But I don't like to have diaper bags, have to go into diaper bags day to day grabbing diapers or creams or anything like that. So they leave a lot of that stuff here, and I also provide a vast majority of the things that they need. And then they also say, what program do you use for waitlisted children? A website. I have Brightwheel and love it. I also have Kid Care, but for the near future, I want to know what else I can use. I use Brightwheel as well. I just use my email for waitlisted children. I just have a little list on there, like a little folder with all of my emails from children on my wait list. So I can just kind of go through as far as when they approached me and what age would fit whatever opening I have. So I don't use a specific website for waitlisted children. I just use my email. So I hope that helps. I'm sorry I don't have a website. That's really cool that you use a website though. I didn't know you could use Brightwheel for that. So I'll have to check that out. That's really awesome. And then she said, this is more like a comment. In my state, I can care for a family without a license, but once I take on a new family, I must have a license. So my question is, how much time should you give yourself to open up for a new family? I guess it really depends on the interest. So I guess you're saying you already care for a family, but if you take on more kids, you're going to have to get licensed. So as far as like getting licensed, depending on your state, it could take anywhere from, a couple months to up to a year, I'm assuming. In my state, it took me there was like some issues with my rep and all that. But it took me about 3.5 to 4 months to get licensed. This process has been easy. Well, to get registered took me about 4 months. To get licensed, it's been a lot quicker just because everything's already in. I'm already running. I've already had all my paperwork done. So I would call your state and just ask them, or call your licensing agency or your licensing rep and just ask them what the average time is and how you can expedite the process. And then I would just go based off that. I would even maybe add a week to that because sometimes they're a little slow. And that's what I would do. So I hope that helped answer your questions. That was a really good question. I never thought about a timeline for people. Okay, so thank you, Ara's Life, for those questions. I'm going to do a few more and then we're going to move on, or then I'm going to end this and we'll move on. And you guys can see that second video on Friday. So this is from Heidi Halam. I hope I'm saying that right, Heidi. Thank you for asking all these wonderful questions. She said, do you do the daycare alone or do you have help? Again, I said, I did daycare alone. I now have help. She said, how many kids do you have in your daycare program? I currently have 8 children. in my daycare program, 10 if you count my older children who are at school during the day, but they are home after school. 2 of the 8 are my own children and 6 are my enrolled daycare children. So that's how many I have. I can have up to 12. So I do have some interest and have some other people hoping to fill those spots. So she said, do they bring their own food or do you provide it? I provide it. I've always provided it. Even before I was on the food program, it was coming out of my grocery budget. I just simply would take whatever I was making for dinner the night before and make extra, and then I would use that as the daycare lunch the next day. And then we would do simple things like waffles and pancakes and muffins and things like that for breakfast. She said, what ages are the kids? So my kids are quite young. I have a very young bunch. They are all 3 and under. So I have 2 3-year-olds, a 2-year-old, or yeah, 2 3-year-olds, a 2-year-old. I have 2 that are almost 2. I have 1 that is 18 months and I have 1 that is... Sorry, you guys, my battery died, so, or my card was full. So if things look a little bit different, that's why. So I think I was at what age, or no, what ages are the kids? I've already answered that question. And then it says, do you run your daycare in the summer? I do run my daycare year round. I only take some major holidays off. I do not currently take vacation. However, I do have 5 paid personal days throughout the year. So I am going to get into 2 more questions. This is from Jada Stevens. She said, hello, how much do you charge for half and full days and what fees do you charge? I do not currently provide a half day schedule. When I go to make my schedules, when I go to accept clients, I'm really looking for full-time clients. So I let people know I don't do part-time unless the need arises and I really need somebody to fill a spot. I don't do half day. And then I've already gone over the fees within this video, so I hope that was helpful. And then again, how many are you licensed for? I am licensed for 12. The ratio really depends, or how many I can actually take really depends on how many caregivers there are and how many or what the ages of the children are. So every state is different. I'm licensed for 12. So that's it, guys. I'm gonna save the rest of these questions for my next video, which is coming out on Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching. If I did not answer your question, you can leave it down below. I am gonna get to them in the next video, all the ones that kind of met the deadline. But I do try to answer as many as I can in the comments as soon as I can get to them. I really, really, really appreciate your support. My daycare tour is coming out Wednesday, which you guys have been asking for. It's not perfect. My room is not ready, not completely done yet, but I wanted to show you guys the space anyways. And then once I get it done, which I don't think it's ever going to be done, I don't think as perfectionists we're ever done. But I want to show you the space anyways, because I know you guys were looking forward to that. So I will have this video up on Monday, my daycare tour up on Wednesday, and my second Q&A up on Friday. So I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.